Hello and welcome to the 16th episode of the Creation of Anatomy podcast. I am your co-host, Eric Valero.
And I'm your co-host, Sarah Holcraft.
And today we are reading from page 105, and we're reading Structure and Argument. So part A and part B. So we read all the way up to 114. And I think we have one more podcast before we actually are reading Theology of the Body.
Yep.
Exciting.
It is. We're almost done with this introduction.
So what did you do last weekend?
What did you do last weekend?
I think I did the same thing you did last weekend.
Well, last weekend we couldn't podcast because we were on a high school retreat.
Yeah.
Which was your first time being at this high school retreat.
Yes.
Because this retreat, so we do this retreat every fall with our high schoolers.
Yeah, definitely the coolest idea for a retreat.
So fun.
Oh my goodness.
So this was my fourth in Bolden, your first in Bolden. And you loved it.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Well, I mean, just the idea of doing like a camping trip.
Yeah.
I don't know. So you know how I do the Wim Hof breathing?
Yeah.
Like every morning. And for some reason, I've never been at like a sleepaway camp before like that. And
really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it's always been like, I don't know, like when I was a kid, I always wanted to do something like that. I would see like band camp kind of like movies or something like that. And I don't know, like, you know how you fantasize about like, oh my goodness, that'd be so cool to do that? Whenever I would do the Wim Hof breathing, for some reason, like those childhood like desires of wanting to do that would come back. Is always for some reason, like when you do Wim Hof breathing, it always like these childhood memories and feelings come back.
I can't believe you've never done one of those because they seem so popular in New Jersey.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly why. Oh, I mean, I guess I do know why. Very early on, I moved up the ranks in a martial arts school pretty fast, and like I guess I had the privilege of having a grandfather who took me to martial arts. He would pick me up from school and bring me to the martial arts school every day. So, you know, they started to rely on me a lot. So I was teaching summer camps, like with other instructors at first, but then on my own, like since I was like 12. Right. So like a lot of that time period, like I was already like very much like working, I guess.
Yeah.
And they were like day camps though, like at the Jewish Community Center.
Right. When you were Jewish.
Back when I was Jewish.
Who was it who asked you?
Who was it that asked me that?
I think it was Bella.
I think it was Bella, yeah.
Because we were playing Gaga.
Yes.
We were playing the Gaga pit, and you made a comment about how we used to play this all the time at Jewish camp. She was like, "Wait, are you Catholic?"
Yeah, I know that. Like, I realized that is a very odd thing because I wasn't even like a camp counselor. That was literally one of the specials kind of like classes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've never done anything like in Bolden. I thought, I mean, to be honest, I told those guys in my small group, I'm like, I was like, I felt I only knew them for like 2 days, and I was so proud of them.
Yeah.
I couldn't even believe how proud I could be of a group of guys in 2 days, because I'm just like, I told them like, you might be on all different levels of your journey and your spirituality and your closeness to Jesus and your Catholic faith. And I told them, like, you know where I was when I was your age? Like, nowhere near here.
Yeah.
I was not on a journey towards God at all at this point. And I just told them, like, no matter if you feel like you're in the beginning of your journey or what, like, it's pretty amazing that they were.
The fact that they're there, and the fact that they want a relationship with Jesus, even if they don't know what that means.
Yeah. I'm not trying to call any kids' names out, but the one kid he was like a senior. Um, he definitely was one of those kids that like everything that came out of his mouth was a joke.
Yeah.
But then he would raise his hand and like he would say something, and you're just like, he's not kidding.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, he says it like he's kidding, but he means this. And like, I don't know, like, great, good for him for figuring out how to say something amongst your friends
Mhm.
that's actually like meaningful and like a spiritual thing to say. And also, like, I don't know. I don't know. There's always a guy looks at you like, oh man, what are you playing into this for? You know,
Mhm.
like, come on, we're above this. Like, let's not go into this whole thing. But like, I don't know, when someone gets into a retreat, it's like,
Yeah. Well, it's funny because when I was in high school, I used to do those retreats all the time. And obviously, being a retreatant, my favorite part was what the adults had to say. Like, I wanted to hear what they had to say. But now, being an adult, my favorite part is what the high schoolers had to say.
yeah,
And so, when I was in high school, small group was my least favorite part of retreats because, like, I didn't care what the girls around me had to say. I didn't care, which is so
mm,
weird because I now, like, I know high schoolers now when they go on retreat, they tell me that the small group's their favorite part, and they're
well, even
so
your,
transformed
yeah.
by what their peers have to say and what
Oh
they
wow, and what their peers have to say.
yeah, and I wasn't like that in high school. I just wanted to
Oh
hear,
okay.
like, I wanted to be more like the adults, and I wanted to, like, know how they had a relationship with God. How can I get there?
Hmm.
But now I'm like, what the high schoolers have to say is so profound to me.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, did you have good small group leaders? Because that was an adult, right? Or they just kind of let you guys?
No, you're right. I don't remember my small group leaders.
Yeah.
So were they? I'm sure they were good.
See, I don't know why I vividly remember all of my kids and my small group kids, my like the guys,
The boys.
the boys, but I don't know. Like even some of them were kind of quiet, but like I don't know, they were all like you felt that each one was playing off each other,
Hmm.
and I don't know. To be honest, I'm glad I'm an adult now because that was a tough time to manage being in a group. Oh my goodness, the dynamics were rough.
Yeah, but it was a good weekend.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and Stranger Things is coming out, so all good things.
Well, I just can't believe that I only learned this a few days ago, and you have no idea how obsessed I was with Stranger Things when not when the first season came out. I watched the first season like a normal person, but and I think I watched the second one like a normal person too. When I heard that the third one was coming out, I was like all over it. I rewatched the first and second seasons.
Not like a normal person.
Not like a normal person, like a what are they
Crazy
called?
maniac.
No, like a super fan.
Super fan.
That's what they're called.
Oh yeah,
I
binge
was a super
watcher.
fan. I binge watched it.
Mm-hmm.
That's not normal to binge watch something.
Nope.
Shows signs of addiction.
Yeah. Well, we were talking with Matt today about Vecna and how he thought that Vecna was which I've heard this from a few people, that he's the scariest, I guess, supervillain, or just like, I guess,
Because he's actually
antagonist.
like a villain.
Like he's malicious. Like yeah,
Yeah.
I think he represents like real danger in people's lives right now, as opposed to like what he was saying, like those like Venus flytrap looking things,
The
like that's
Demogorgons.
not, no, I'm not gonna worry about that thing coming after
Right.
me. But I think the whole idea of like the concentration of power
Yeah.
and the preying on the innocents, we see that right now, and I think he represents that, and I think that elicits that innate sense of fear in people. So
It's a little too real.
it's a little too real, I guess.
Yeah. Which makes me a little nervous to watch season 5. I think that's why I haven't rewatched it after season 4 came out. I watched it and then I had to put a pause.
Yeah, we'll watch it like a normal people's.
Well, what? Like a normal people's.
Like a normal people's.
Okay.
So let's get on to the text. Um, so page 106 is literally just the table of contents at this point. It was dancing around
Yes,
table of contents type stuff. This is a table of contents
it is specifically for this
for
book.
this arrangement specifically.
Yeah.
hmm Which is um, which is the confusing thing because it's Pope John Paul II's arrangement, not his heading titles. Remember that he was saying that they don't have the original heading titles as
Only in Polish.
and only in Polish, yeah.
I thought this was translated.
Right, but they were saying that the headings were
Oh.
not consistent.
Which is why people get confused reading it.
Yeah. Also because there's a bunch of names for this, right? So but I think the main thing is that it is broken up into um, fundamentally 3 parts, and
2 parts.
well, 2 parts plus Humanae Vitae, like um his
Okay, his
right
analysis of.
of Humanae Vitae, yeah, because each one of them seems to have that, and it seems like the common way, which is this one, which is the words of Christ, right, is the first part, and then marriage as a sacrament as the second part, right? Part one, part two.
Where are you? Sorry. What page?
106. Table of contents. Words of Christ. Marriages. Yeah.
Oh.
Right? And that's how it's split up in this book, but it's split up in different ways in different books.
Yes, okay. So, and I think what they mean is that the part 1 words of Christ is how does what Jesus say, what does what Jesus say tell us about the theology of the body?
Yes.
Which is the whole redemption of the body theme,
Mm-hmm.
which is the first part. And then part 2, the sacrament, is how does theology of the body, what does theology of the body say about how we live in this world?
Oh, I
like
thought
practically.
it was more of uh the thought of looking at it through Paul's like
yes, well,
right.
right, but so it's kind of, I guess this is more like specifically like what does Jesus say,
Mm-hmm.
and like it's more the theology of what Jesus says, and then Paul in Ephesians, he breaks it down like how does this practically apply to us.
Right.
So it's kind of the idea and then the practicality.
Sure.
The application.
And then the final part, Humanae Vitae. Yeah, I think Ephesians 5 is like the main, like, I guess, concretization of Paul's interpretation of marriage as a sacrament.
Which again, we should just read that.
Oh yeah,
we haven't read it yet.
Ephesians 5.
No,
oh, like together.
Humanae Vitae.
Humanae Vitae. Yes. Sure.
Yeah.
That's definitely.
Ephesians 5 we read on our 3rd podcast actually.
Oh yeah, I feel like
Mhm.
I've read that chapter probably more times than most chapters of the Bible.
Yeah, but the overview is important because I can see it. So on 105, it mentions how people find TOB to be repetitive or repetitious.
Repetitious.
And looking at the overview is helpful because it helps me understand the goal of each section.
Right.
And it makes it less repetitive. Like now I understand why is it saying this theme again, because now it's not talking about how it applies to Jesus, but how it applies to Ephesians, or how it wants to apply to us.
Right. Where you might say part 1 and part 2 are both aiming at the same goal, which is the redemption of the body, right? But the part 1 is Jesus's words in his teachings of the redemption of the body and the resurrection and eschatology, right? And the second one is the idea of, well, how do you do that through the sacrament of marriage? Like, how is marriage part of that?
But not just marriage.
Not just marriage, right?
Yeah.
But specifically the sacrament of marriage. And
No. When it says the sacrament, it means not just marriage, but also like priesthood.
Oh, they go into that in this?
Yeah.
Oh,
so that's the whole idea when it gets broken up, if you look at page 112, when it gets into section B and it presents the alternate structures,
Mm-hmm.
the alternate structures also include the sacrament part is also Christian virginity as well as Christian marriage.
But
So those are both included in the sacrament section.
I think you're a little off on that, because the Christian virginity is mentioning in the 2 states of a person's life, which is, it says right here, the first 3 cycles offer a general account of Christian anthropology, while the last 3 cycles apply this anthropology to the concrete life of Christians in the 2 states of life, virginity and marriage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're talking about like a consecrated virgin or a person that takes an oath of celibacy, right? I think they're talking about, not to say that those are not legitimate of ways of participating in the sacraments, right? But I think specifically that second part is talking about marriage, in that, in the ideal Christian sense and Catholic sense, is that the point in which you're married, the first part of your life is the part of your life of virginity, and then the second part of your life is your part of your life of marriage.
But then on page 113, it talks about the other alternate structure. And it says that part 2, how are we to live, is there's cycle 4, celibacy for the kingdom, which it does talk like is implying people who are celibate. And then cycle 5 is sacramentality of marriage. So I think it's addressing both.
Sure. Like, all of those are legitimate expressions of Christianity, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I just didn't realize that's what they will talk about in those cycles.
Yeah.
That's the point I was making. Yeah. Okay, cool.
I
So,
mean, that's what we're assuming as far as we've
right,
gotten.
I know. It is so difficult just like staring at a table of contents and being like, I wonder what that chapter is going to be about.
Yeah. It is almost helpful though, like reading the different, like the alternate structures, because it breaks it down in
different ways, yeah.
Yeah, in different topics, and or even different like then the other structure that Pascal-eyed is the body in the state, and then it kind of goes like
Innocence, sinful nature, redemption, glorified.
right.
And then glorified integrated into the kingdom of God.
Right.
Right? Which is the kingdom of heaven. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few different ways of looking at this sequence of this story being told. Was it? No, who was it? It wasn't Saint Catherine of Siena, but it was a female saint that you had read about. You'll remember this, because they were talking about how there are like 3 castles, if I'm not mistaken.
Saint Teresa of Avila.
Yeah, that's what it was, right? Where there's like the state of, what was it? What were the 3?
There were 7.
Oh, there were 7. Never mind.
Well, there's an interior castle, and I guess there's 7 castles. People are gonna listen to us and really
Oh my
jump down our
goodness,
throats.
yeah. Right, we might as well stop there. We're not experts on that one.
But what's funny is I have an image of something I drew on the board in my classroom, is how, like, basically as you go from castle to castle, you are getting closer to the heart of truth.
Right.
The heart of reality, the heart of God.
Oh, good, she stopped.
Was Fendi distracting you?
I'm just worried you can probably not hear you from.
Oh no, I'm louder than Fendi.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, but I see that. That's kind of the same idea of like going from a state of innocence to a fall into sin, and then being redeemed, and then glorified.
Yes, which is funny you say that, because I was just talking to my 6th graders about, or 7th graders, about how when Adam and Eve fell, we think of that as one moment in time, and how them falling from innocence and being like punished and pushed out of the garden, how that happened once, like many, many years ago, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like actually the reality of our lives, of our own lives,
Sure.
that we sin and we fall. And then the idea is like we're supposed to be saved and
Right.
then called to something greater, but then we sin again and fall. And
Well, don't you find that the story of Genesis kind of plays itself out in almost every human life?
mm-hmm.
Right? Like, I think we're born into, obviously, there's this concept of original sin, but for all intents and purposes, like, a baby has not sinned, right?
No, yeah.
So it's almost as if, like, their babies are born into a paradisal state,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they, as they grow up, they make errors, right? But they're pushed to an edge at a certain point, because a 2-year-old's going to make a bunch of errors, but they're not maliciously sinning. They're just
No.
trying to get their needs met.
Mm-hmm.
But at a certain point, they remember the errors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem, is that now all of a sudden they're like, I know that this hurt somebody last time I stole the toy, and I'm going to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And now they've sinned.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Is because that memory is what causes that, right? Is that, like, if you just are like, I want that toy and I stole it, the first time you do it, you don't realize that that's wrong, because you
Yeah.
don't think that kid's going to start crying from that happening.
Mm-hmm.
But once you go, ooh, I know better, but I'm going to do it anyway, now you hit the fall.
Although, even if you hadn't done it before, but an adult told you that you shouldn't do that,
Mm-hmm.
then you do know better, even if you didn't experience it.
Well, yes, I agree, but I also find that um, it's kind of like if I try to write you a letter trying to teach you how to ride a bike.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, I was told, but, like, I have no clue if that's true, if I could do it, if that's the case, right? It's almost like, in order to really know, you have to try it out.
So isn't that so interesting? Because when I just started teaching theology of the body to my middle schoolers, so all of these conversations are coming up in my
Mm-hmm.
classroom, and one of my they're honestly they're all the same at this point. I don't remember which one says what, but somebody asked me, did Adam and Eve like actually sin if they didn't know that it was wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And I told them like, well, God told them it was wrong, and they said, but they hadn't done it before, so how could they know for
Right.
sure?
Mm.
And it's a good question because they themselves have never experienced wrong. What does it mean
Yeah.
for something to be wrong?
Oh,
So
who asked that? Because I think that's such a great question.
we should shout them out.
Shout them out. Who is it? Is it somebody that wants a shout out right now?
No, it's not. It's
Okay.
a sixth grader.
So I had this conversation with a priest maybe like 5-6 years ago, right around when I started to revert back to the church, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had my disagreements with this priest, but I think I had a pretty interesting maybe hypothesis about where the converging circles of sin, morality, error kind of converge together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's obviously, everybody knows at this point, it's like such a common trope of like a talking point about sin, that there's the idea of missing the mark, right? That's an archery term meaning missing the mark. Have you heard this?
Have I heard the term missing the mark?
That sin is an archery term.
Oh, no.
Oh, okay. So there you go. Sin is an archery term. Like, I think I forget what language it is, but that refers to hitting the bullseye, but not but like hitting the bullseye is not sinning, but anything that deviates from hitting the bullseye is a sin, right?
Oh.
Right. It's an interesting way of looking at sin as we use it today, right? And this kind of goes back to the conversation we were having in the last podcast about, maybe it was 2 podcasts ago, about, is something wrong because of the intention you have behind it, or are there certain acts that are just wrong, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they were talking specifically about any type of contraception,
Right.
right? Interference of like God's will within conception. And it kind of makes you think of like, okay, there's errors, and people might think of that as like being clumsy, right? And like being clumsy is not what you should strive toward, but it doesn't exactly seem malicious. But it also doesn't seem as if something that like, it's not as if it's completely innocent, because some people could be careless, right? So there's that element of error, and then there's the element of sin. And sin, it's believed to be a sin if something is taking you further away from being in God's grace,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think you get hairy once you say, well, you have to intentionally do it in order for it to be a sin. It's like that kind of makes it seem like something is evil if there's evil intention behind it. But that as long as there's not evil intention behind it, you can get away with doing it. And that's what we were talking about. That's, I think, who was I can't remember. You knew how to pronounce his name better than I did, but I know I would just remember because I rewatched this. Um, but they were saying about the idea of evil has to be from like immoral intention, but that there are certain things that can be done that aren't evil because they don't have immoral intentions. And it's like, I don't think I agree with that, right?
Right. It's still wrong
It's
and
still wrong,
bad,
but is it a
and it
sin?
and it still harms you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because even this is something you bring up about Jordan Peterson's big thing about like everything you do has consequences,
Mm.
and even if you like you don't get away with anything, right?
Wow, I'm glad you remember that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, because it's so true.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it seems like you got away with it, and even if so, in this sense, like even if you didn't do something intentionally, so you didn't sin, it
Right.
doesn't mean you got away with doing something wrong
Right. Right.
because you still have to
There's a
suffer the
reality to it.
consequences of it. So, is this something you have to go? Let's, like, for example, let's say um, this is a dumb example because I know better, but let's say I
No,
didn't
but yeah.
know that I had to slow down at a yellow light. And so don't laugh.
Yeah. You know what state we're in?
But like when you see a yellow light, you're supposed to slow down so that when you get to the stop, you stop when it turns red and you don't run a red. But if I don't know that that's a law and I drive through it, I like maybe didn't sin. Although this goes into like when did the sin happen? The sin probably didn't happen at me crossing when it was
Ooh,
yellow.
I
The
like where
sin
you're going with
probably
this.
happened when I got into the car, knowing that I don't know all the rules of the road.
Right. So I think that goes along the lines of ignorance of the law isn't um, an allowance to break the law. I
Mm-hmm.
forget. I think that's like written in like legislation, is that the ignorance of the law doesn't matter if you're not aware of the law. You're in this state. This is a law. I don't care what they do in your state. This is, you're breaking the law in this state.
And it's the same with Christianity. I
Mm-hmm.
think people, they want to be ignorant of what the Catholic Church teaches because some of the things that the Catholic Church teaches is hard to live out.
Yes.
But if I don't know any better, then nobody can tell me that I sinned.
Right.
And the reality is, like, yeah, maybe you doing that thing wasn't your sin, but maybe you not knowing that it was wrong was your sin.
Right. And I think that there's, so I used to do this to my students because I would ask them, what's the difference between looking and seeing?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's tough, right? Because I think like you could look at something, but like that doesn't necessarily mean that you saw what you looked at.
It's like the hearing versus listening.
Right. So like I could just like flash this page in front of you and be like, what's the
Mm-hmm.
eighth word on that page?
Mm-hmm.
You saw the eighth word on the page, right? But you don't know what it is because you
Mm-hmm.
saw it, you didn't, or you looked at it, you didn't see it,
Right.
right? So it's the same kind of concept of like when you make an error, maybe it was innocent, and that's what Adam and Eve like. Did they make an innocent error? Who knows? I mean, I'm not making a point on that. It's just more of what is like how do you conduct yourself in in the face of being an imperfect being that is gonna make errors in the future and has temptations to sin, but like you said, it's like, well, what if I'm like 5 inches from a red light? It's like, well, and I at that point I don't want to sin anymore. It's like, well, you're going 40 miles an hour and you're 4 inches from a red light.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna break it. Like
Mm-hmm.
nothing you could do right now is gonna stop you from breaking it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a lot of people are in those situations where
Yeah.
they are too deep in,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, what do you do at this point? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the whole idea of surrender, right? Is that like at this point, like you you're gonna sin no matter what at this point,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you have to leave it in God's hands at this point of getting you out of this.
Mm-hmm.
And like who knows, maybe you have to like take on a lot of consequences. But the the moral, I guess the difference between aiming towards God or aiming away from God is to the, I guess, the level of control you have, right? I wrote an essay about this one time because it's like freaked me out. But I was driving on 280. People know 280 in New Jersey. Um, it's like a skateboard ramp. It's drastically downhill, right? And I'm driving a little bit too close to um, a Mack truck in front of me. Like I'm not driving terribly close, but we're both, going downhill, probably going over the speed limit, 70, 80 miles an hour, who knows, right?
You?
Yeah, this was 3 or 4 years ago now, and I'm in. There's a lot of lanes at this point. There's like 5 or 6 lanes of the road, and I'm driving behind him, and all of a sudden, this Mack truck just like swerves out of the road, and I'm looking to the side. I'm like, "Oh, what the heck are you doing?" And a car was stalled in the middle of 280, stopped dead in
Oh
the road.
no.
And when I tell you, I just cranked my wheel to the side as fast as I can, and like when I tell you, you heard like that, because I got like inches from this guy's car. And to be honest, if I was, I mean, milliseconds later,
Mm-hmm.
I would maybe not even been here,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like I thought about that, I'm just like, where was my error, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if I had ended up hitting this person, like where was my error? Because like where did I go wrong there? Because I went wrong not in like let's say I got lucky. Pure like
Mm-hmm.
that was not my skill or my good judgment that I was able, that was my reflexes and I was able to get out of there fast enough. But I thought about that, like, where was my error in this? It's like, man, it was steps back, and like maybe it wasn't even me driving too close to this guy's car. Maybe it was me having a conversation before leading me to be like frustrated or stressed out before I started driving.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have, maybe my error was I should have been calm before I started driving, because maybe me like pushing this guy to go faster was a consequence of something that I didn't do earlier. And then you can keep tracing that back of like how far back do you have to go until you see where your error was.
Which is not always what we're called to do. We don't have to think about every little thing that we do wrong and how like try to connect all the details. Although it is a good reflection on how we think that doing one little thing wrong, it's not a big deal. It hardly affects us, it hardly affects the people
Mm-hmm.
around us. But we don't realize how much a small sin or a small error
Mm-hmm.
can really have create a chain reaction. And you think about that, it I think in a very tangible way, we all experience that when we wake up in the morning. Like one little thing that we do wrong in the morning can cause the rest of our day to just be terrible, like a chain
Mm-hmm.
reaction of unfortunate events because of one thing that happened in the morning
Yeah.
that made the next thing bad, which caused the next thing to be bad. And it just, but the cool thing about it, and I think kind of along the theme of redemption of the body, is that at any point we, maybe not at any point, but there is a point where we can take hold and take control, or like you said, give it to God and let him take control, and it
Mm.
can stop. Like we don't have to continue to live in error after error, like, well, I
Right.
did this thing and now the rest of my life is
Mm-hmm.
just error after error
Right.
caused by the last thing I did. But this is kind of crazy because that's, it almost doesn't like make sense that our life can go on the up and up again, because when you're on a downhill, like it just keeps going downhill.
Right.
Like something has to cause it to go up again.
Right. I think that that way of picturing error, sin, immorality, evil, right, is the way that somebody ought to lead when they're taking over a corrupt institution,
Hmm.
right? Because you might go, man, I'm going to immediately take on the sins of this entire institution, as I know there are horrible things taking place. There are people being wronged in this institution. Now I'm leading it, right? And it's like, well, the answer isn't just go and shut it down, right? The answer is also isn't to go oust everybody that's doing a job, but they're also doing something wrong, right? Like that is where like God needs to lead you as a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from knowing a leader of a corrupt institution and how he did such a great job of taking that and going kind of like we were talking about slavery, right? I mean, look at Abraham Lincoln.
Oh yeah.
I mean, he is the epitome of somebody taking over a corrupt institution,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, imagine if a president today like became the president of a country that had slaves. It's like you might take a snapshot of that guy and go, you lead a country and you allow slaves. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, did you expect me to just like snap my fingers and this whole thing be perfect? Or because
Right.
I'm leading, all of a sudden it's now just perfect? It's like Abraham Lincoln took years and it was very carefully handled. And the thing is, he didn't just go sign an executive order, thou shalt not have slaves,
Mm-hmm.
and make that happen. To be honest, that would make it much worse. And I think you see this also in the abortion like argument, right? Is that people see that as like, what's the right way to end abortion, right? Because as a country, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I would argue that no one wants there to be abortions. It's like whether you are pro-choice or pro-life, that no one thinks that that's a good thing to have, right? The actual like procedure itself,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's never a good thing. I think some people think of it as something that is better than other consequences, which as someone that's pro-life wouldn't think that that's the case, right?
Mm-hmm.
That person's life is ultimately valuable, right? But I think we should look at the pursuit to end abortion as the same way as slavery, of like, well, clearly it's not going to happen by somebody just writing some executive order, right? But there obviously is a prudent way to go about it that maybe will de-escalate the situation to the point that, and maybe supplement the people involved to the point that we don't need abortions, or at least a better way to completely handle it. Because you might say that Abraham Lincoln could have done that, and we'd probably still have slavery today.
Mm-hmm.
right? But the way that he handled it was in a way that now we don't.
It would be very cool to have somebody like Abraham Lincoln as president. I think about this randomly, how I am not very involved politically in society, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. And I think that because it makes me feel a little stressed or hopeless. And it's crazy to think that I do live in the same country that Abraham Lincoln was president of.
Mm.
And it does make me realize, although our world is so different now, that it's not impossible for us to have a president not like Abraham Lincoln, but in the sense like somebody who we really need to, exactly as you said, like take on a corrupt government and with corrupt leaders
Mm-hmm.
and to do to create something good. And I can imagine why people who don't believe in God feel so hopeless about it, because honestly when I think about it, it seems so impossible. But knowing that God like really can, just seeing it in small ways in people's lives, like God can take something terrible and can take someone's sins and just completely turn their life around. Like he could do that for a country too,
Yeah.
because he's God.
Well, I think you hit it exactly on the head with when you said somebody that doesn't believe in God finds a corrupt institution hopeless. And I think it's if you can't beat them, join them
Right.
type of mentality that is exactly what we're seeing in so many levels of government today. And I mean, it's almost at this point just a playbook of who's the next corrupt person entering into this already corrupt
Yeah.
place in government.
But we pray every mass, we pray for the leaders of our nation. And I I think that if we were more intentional about our prayers,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a lot of people praying for our nation
Yeah.
every day.
But do you think those people hear their own prayers?
That's what I'm saying.
Right? Because I mean, I mentioned this in a previous podcast as well about Alexander Solzhenitsyn, right? Where he said that like evil is not there's evil on this side and there's good on this side. It's not as if like, oh, here's a set of good people and this is a set of bad people. This political party's good, this political party's bad, right? It's like every single person has to make sure that they shift their line so that they are living out their life truthfully and with God, right? And he said that when you find yourself within a corrupt government, a corrupt nation, that you can go scream in the streets all you want, but the most important thing you can do is take on the responsibility to be the best person you can be and to live your life ridding yourself of lies and to live honestly. And to be honest, that there's a lot of consequences that come with that. When you
Yeah.
stop lying and you start telling the truth, your life doesn't all of a sudden get great. You lose friends, you lose power. People won't confide in you if they're confiding in you because you go along with their lie, you know. But you're surrendering your power in doing that to God, right? Is that like you're surrendering your power? You lose your power, you decrease so He can increase.
Yeah. And I tell my kids very often, because they're at the age where cheating is more common and lying is more common. And I
Yeah,
tell them, like, you think that it's not a big deal now, but what is the character that you're creating, the person who you're becoming?
yeah, the person you're becoming.
Yeah, it's not somebody who just cheats on tests for the rest of their lives, but somebody who cheats in their relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not somebody who just lies to their teacher, but somebody who starts lying to themselves.
Right.
And
You're increasing.
Yeah.
right? You
And
get a better test grade, you get all these
mm-hmm.
things.
Yeah. And the consequences, like, yeah, you might make it through middle school and high school and college, but like you're not gonna make it through life.
Yeah. Well, I think as a teacher, it's really important to show children the importance of relationships over power, relationships over grades, relationships over uh, like special activities that you might be able to get
Mm-hmm.
get because you do X, Y, and Z, right? Because the relationship should always grow stronger in everything that's done. So the kid should see that I didn't cheat on my test and I got a worse grade, but my relationship with the teacher got stronger,
Mm-hmm.
right? Where like I could have lied because of a situation I was in, and maybe I'll get in some consequences. Maybe I'll be in trouble, but the relationship is stronger. And of course, you have a detention, but that's not the point.
Mm-hmm.
Because the person that is honest, the person that fesses up, the person that is playing the game truthfully should always be shown as somebody that's what you ought to do, right? And I think kids go like, and they see teachers that are not, they don't care about the relationship with the kid. That teacher's probably annoyed with this kid. He's like, here's your detention. And then you find out like, oh, I can't stand it when a kid confesses something and then like the teacher, like, I don't know, when a little kid is acting up and
Mm-hmm.
you're getting annoyed, right? And they're, but like, but then they all of a sudden start doing what you want and you see the parent still annoyed with the kid. It's like, just drop it. Really. Like, that kid has to see, I start doing the right thing, I'm back in your good graces. Don't go like, now I'm taking a vendetta against you. I'm holding a grudge against you for the next 10 minutes. The second the kid starts doing the right thing, it's like, good. You're back on the right track and you're back on my good graces.
That's a great perspective that not only kids but adults should think about more often is just this mantra that my relationships are more important.
Yeah.
And because I don't think about that when I don't know, when I wake up in the morning and I'm too tired to get out of bed. Like, I don't think my relationships are more important. Like, I need to, because to be honest, I think one of my uh, greatest flaws that I am annoyed with is the fact that I have such a hard time being on time to things. And it's amazing how much better I've gotten at it.
I was gonna say, I don't even think that's one of your major flaws.
I
You're
used to be
pretty good at
really,
that.
really bad about it.
Sorry, that
And
sounded wrong.
oh, minor.
Not one of the worst ones.
Yeah, you're much worse about this. um, but it's still like it bothers me so much when I'm even like 5 minutes late. Like if I have to text somebody, hey, I'm running late, or hey, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
It bothers me so much. But I think it would be helpful for me because I know exactly the reason that I'm late to things, and it's one of two things. One, because I'm no, not because of Fendi. Well, okay, a little bit. But one of them being that I think that I can fit more into the time allotted into my morning. So like um if I wake up at 5:30 and I have an hour before I need to leave for work, then I'm going to fit in all of these things that I think I can do in an hour, but really it takes me an hour and 20 to do
Yeah,
it.
you could get a coffee date in the middle of that too, right?
I would think so.
That was an insight.
I know. But the other thing is sometimes I just feel too lazy to, and I actually think this sometimes, like, well, if I'm 5 minutes late, it's not that big of a deal. And in one sense, it's not that big of a deal because, to be honest, the person I'm meeting up is probably going to be 5 minutes late too, is the world that we live in. And I start to think that, but it is a big deal because if I think it's okay to be 5 minutes late,
You
then
set a precedence.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And then someday I might think it's okay that I'm 10 minutes late. And someday I might think that it's okay that I am canceling on this person.
Slippery slope.
It is. And I think this mantra of like my relationship is more important than my desire to lay on the couch or stay in bed
Sure.
or whatever else I want to do.
I often think that the ways that friendships go wrong, ways that romantic relationships go wrong, the way that relationships and families go wrong, I think people go like, in 10 years, like, why shouldn't we still be friends, right? But I mean, like, you look 10 years ago and you look now, it's like, well, how many friends do you still have? And it's like, the thing is that, like, sometimes you still have some friends from 10 years ago, but like
Mhm.
most of your friends are probably different at this point.
Yeah.
And you go like, well, I didn't right now, I have no problem with you. And you go like, for all intents and purposes, I don't plan on stopping being your friend, but like, what will be that thing that stops our relationship? And like, I don't plan on hurting you. You don't plan on hurting me, but it'll happen. And where it happens is those little tiny gaps you leave open by, oh, well, you could disrespect me by being a little late. And I can probably take a little liberty of, maybe I'll show up a little late for you, right?
Mhm.
And it's like, sure, any one of those is not going to destroy a friendship, but it pries open the opportunity for disrespect. And I think it's worth making that little sacrifice of not being late when you go meet up with a friend, and your friend's always reliable, right? And that's a respect that closes that gap, and
Mhm.
it makes it so that you don't start to build up resentment and all these things that ultimately end friendships.
And I think it's not just friendships and relationships with other people, but our own relationship with ourselves too. Because
Mm-hmm.
I even see how me being late affects my relationship with myself because because a lot of things happen. It's a lot of things happen in the time that I'm late,
Mm-hmm.
and the entire time of me driving to this location, I'm just on myself the whole time, really stressed and really frustrated and upset with
And that's
myself.
not helping yourself.
It's not helping myself, and then when I get there, it's then I feel so dumb because this person is also late, and I'm like, oh my gosh, now I was stressing about that. I'm so dumb. I shouldn't have like worried about it. It's not that big of a deal. And then but that's not helpful for me
And
either.
that wasn't the error either.
Exactly. And so it's really like our relationship with ourselves is affected by the way that we treat our friends
Mm-hmm.
and vice versa. Because now, because I'm so hard on myself about being late, I'm hard on other people when they're late, which is so unfair because
That's conviction.
I'm also late to things. And it gets really like I think we need to learn how to balance like it's not good to be late, but it doesn't mean you're a terrible person when
Right.
you're 5 minutes late. And you just need to do better next time and be convicted that this is important and you
Yeah.
don't want to be that kind of person. And then because all of that bleeds into your relationship with God too.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to feel either too ashamed to talk to him and this is very dramatic because it's just being late, but also like this
Well,
this goes into all our
you can
sins.
only hold people to the standards you hold yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the thing is, if you hold yourself to low standards, like, you can't bring other people up, right? Like, people
Mm-hmm.
want to meet people's higher standards, right? And that's the whole idea of the beam in your own eye when you're looking at the speck in your brother's eye, right? Is that I don't think Jesus said that as a means of like, just let people be them, you do you, bro, kind of situation. Like, that is not what Jesus is saying there.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus is saying, judge other people by the way you judge yourself, to better those people, not to put them down, right? Like, you should say like, hey, you shouldn't be late, right? I'm never late for you, and I make sure that I've corrected myself. I'm no longer late, and I show up for you, and I expect you to show up for me. And I think that's what Jesus is saying there. He's not saying that you should put somebody down or that you should just never have any kind of judgment on any situation. Because the thing is, a world where no one judges anybody is a world where no one cares about anybody. You know? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you judge your children. You like, hey, look at you. I want you to be better. So I'm not going to be okay with you being like misbehaving.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to be better, right? A parent that just doesn't judge their kid and goes, "Oh, my kid's a little brat, but I don't judge." That's not a good parent, And I think that the reason why Jesus said, like, remove the beam out of your own eye first before you judge the speck in your brother's eye is not saying don't remove the speck from your brother's eye, but first remove it from your own eye.
Right, be the person that you expect them to be.
Yeah. And then you have conviction when you say, "Hey, I expect you to show up on time for me." And then it's not like I'm not saying like we can't be friends, but like you realize that disrespects me.
I think also not just how it affects you, but I think when we ourselves experience a life of mediocrity,
Mm,
we have the opportunity to tell our friends why we know they can be better. And
yeah,
not necessarily for our sake, like you should do this because I do this for you, but you should do this because you can.
yeah,
So, not like in any sort of like, I give you this and you give me this.
right.
Because even in some ways, like, even though I might not be good at being on time for people, it doesn't mean that I'm going to not want that from other people as well. Like, just because we sin doesn't mean we can allow other people to sin too.
Yeah,
Like, we should be in our journey to be better, helping other people to be better, and encouraging them, I think,
it's
is the key word. Like, how are we encouraging people to be what they can be, because we also know that we can be better as
mhm.
well.
So it's so fun you say this because this was such a important theme from the Emboldened retreat, which was the idea of if you're surrounding yourself with a bunch of people who are sinning,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it's time to take yourself out of that group. And it goes the other direction. What you're saying is that, like, you'd hope that you have a bunch of peers that you can strive to be like because they are, they have cleaned themselves up and they're doing like things that you wish you didn't make those errors. But I see so often people put themselves in friend groups because they also sin and they go, look, I don't judge you. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
do that same thing. I gossip all the time. Like, oh, so, like, I make these mistakes, so, it's not a big deal. And it's like, uh, just because there's a consensus around immorality does not make that morality.
Well, I told you about my freshman year of college and how I noticed once I was a sophomore and I looked back, I noticed that all through high school, I used to pray that God would send me Catholic friends.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went to a Catholic university, I met a lot of Catholic people. But still, for some reason, I was attracted to the people who weren't practicing their faith.
Hmm.
And for one, I did really enjoy the friends that I had my
Mm-hmm.
freshman year, and they were good people. But I noticed my sophomore year, when I started spending more time with the Catholic community on campus, that a part of the reason that I felt so comfortable with my freshman year friends is because I wasn't afraid that they were going to judge me, because this sounds terrible, but because I knew that they were worse than me.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that they had greater sins than me, which isn't true. But from my perspective of like, if I were to write out all our sins,
Mm-hmm.
like I know that I'm the better person.
Right.
And so being around them, I don't have to be afraid of them judging me. And I can even be a lesser person and be on their level and not be worried about trying to be so good all the time.
Yeah.
And it was hard making the transition my sophomore year
To
to
Catholic friends.
yes, being surrounded by, because although they weren't perfect by any means,
They held
they
themselves to a higher standard.
yes, and they expected more from me as well.
Yeah.
And I'm glad they did, because it did help me be the person that I could be. But it was hard
Mm-hmm.
because there's such a um, it's so easy to fall into the illusion that you have to be your best all the time, and this is people's perspective on Christians, is that Christians will judge them,
Mm-hmm.
and Christians are judgy.
Don't invite the
And
Christian friend because we want to sin tonight.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I felt that being around, that I was so scared of people judging me and the sins that I had. And it wasn't until I really became friends with those Catholic people that I realized, oh, they sin that way too. And no, it's not okay that we sin that way, but I don't have to be, I don't have to feel alone
Mm-hmm.
and like I can't get out of it, because I see that they're getting out of it, which means I can too. And it's hard to, um, it's hard to admit to other Christians the sins that you have, because if they don't have those sins, then it's really vulnerable to give them uh, like a step above you, in a place where they can judge you and question your how legitimate of a Christian you are. But it's worth it. One, if they do have the same sins as you, then it's helpful, which is often the
But
reality.
even if they don't.
But even if they don't, it's helpful, because yeah, maybe they'll judge you and you don't have to be friends with those people, or maybe they'll like judge you and like condemn you.
Right.
Maybe they'll condemn you,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe they'll see you and reach out a hand and help you get up on their level.
And I would take that one further, is that I would say that a good friend is not only one that will see your shortcomings and pull you up, but once you are up, will look at you as an equal and realize that I step back now, right? Because I see so many times that people go, I'm doing this for you, and I'm doing it because I feel good that I have the power over you. And then once you're up, I'm still gonna look down on you, and I'm still gonna have that like like I'm better than you. I know the right thing. I that's my role in our friendship. My role in our friendship is I tell you what to do. I'm the moral one. And
Yeah.
I think the true friend is the person that will pull you up, and once you're up, change and transform into a different type of friend that is no longer preachy.
Well, I think the other reality is that although we have this idea and we're kind of explaining it like there's certain levels to things, one thing that I learned, because the reason I talk about like having the same sins is because that was a lot of my friendships when I was
Mm-hmm.
a sophomore in college, is I would share about things that I was insecure about, things that I struggled with, and a lot of the women that I was friends with, they that resonated with them. And it wasn't until my senior year that I became friends with a girl who she had very different sins than me.
Mm.
And I think at one point before um, there was a point in time before we were really friends that I did kind of feel like I was like almost on a level up. And it was as our friendship developed that I realized like this idea of levels was so off
Mm-hmm.
in the way that God perceives us. Because despite the fact that she had all these sins and struggles that I didn't, and that I could help pull her up, there were a lot of struggles that I had that I noticed the way that she spoke and the way that she acted really inspired me and pulled me up.
I think there's many different levels that sometimes you're here, sometimes someone else is here, sometimes they're here, sometimes you're here. And I think that's the most transformative friendships.
Well, it was so cool because at any moment, I didn't know where I was in the sense of like, am I the preacher? Am I the listener?
Mm-hmm.
And it made our conversation so dynamic
Yeah.
because it felt like every single time I spoke and when I was listening, I felt inspired and encouraged. So it wasn't just a sense of like, I need to listen to be encouraged or I need to be the one speaking to feel
Mm-hmm.
fulfilled, but it was in both of us speaking and listening that I felt so much encouragement and fulfillment at the same time.
Yeah. I think God sends those people to you, and just in general sends people that are in that space at the right time when someone needs somebody like that. Because
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, that's such a beautiful like type of friendship where
Yeah.
it's not, you're not friends because of some weird pyrodynamic that this one person likes to be the leader, this person likes to be the follower, and this person feels like they're getting the better end of the deal. And it's like no one's getting a better end of the deal. You guys enjoy your time together,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's really what it is.
Yeah. It was really cool. And um it's funny because like we had nothing in common with each other is the hilarious part of it.
Yeah.
Very different from my freshman year friends who I
Uh,
felt like we had so many things in common. Isn't that
yeah.
interesting?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. Well, I think it's a good place to wrap it up right there. Talking
Yeah.
about friendships. I think friendship, people haven't really picked that up since the some really old philosophers. I feel like
Yeah.
the idea of friendship is a lot stranger than I think we realize it. And I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a lot of philosophy that still needs to be figured out about
Mm-hmm.
friendship. And I
Oh,
think
I agree.
conversations like this are needed.
Yeah.
Well, next time we will be reading section C, the structure and detail. Oh man, we just got to turn these last couple ones out, and then we get to the
Theology
theology
of
of
the
the
Body,
body.
Part 1.
Yep.
The Words of Christ.
Yeah, 131. A nice, is that a prime number? It feels very prime.
Cecilia will never make it.
She'll never make it.
I hope not.
All right, well, join us for our 17th episode next time
On Creation of Anatomy.
of Creation of Anatomy.